Hello, good afternoon, and good evening. Chantal, I believe it's evening where you are. Is that right?
It is 5:05 p.m. here.
Okay, middle of the afternoon out here in California. Welcome to the Peace is an Action Verb podcast. I'm Christine Boschen, and I'm here with Chantal Hyde and Krista Howell. Thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for having us.
So, as I always do, I'm going to start with how I either know you or know about you. So, starting with Krista, you and I went to high school together back in the 80s in Denver.
That's right.
And thanks to social media, we've been able to reconnect. And also thanks to our friend Misty for hosting cooking parties on Zoom during the pandemic.
That's
We have
right.
reconnected. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to ask you, Krista, to talk about how you came to know about Chantal and how the two of you got to know each other, Chantal.
Yeah. I just want to say that I'm really stoked that we're both in the Bay Area, so we get to see
Me
each other
too.
in live now too. So, I started listening to Chantel towards probably to the middle and end of the pandemic. I opened a TikTok account because I like to make films and videos and photography and do editing and set things to music and so I was filling that need during the pandemic through making my own TikTok videos. And somehow I stumbled upon her, and she just said all the right things that I knew already, but I needed to hear from the outside. Like I needed to have these thoughts I was having validated from someone else. And everything she said, it was like so relieved. Oh, thank goodness, this I wasn't wrong thinking this. This is true. And a lot of things that she went on to say that are considered maybe more controversial, I also was in agreement with. And so she just struck all the right chords. And I find her to be an extremely concise communicator. She's
Yeah.
great at getting a message across to anyone, no matter what level they're on. So yeah, that's how I found her.
So Chantal, that's what that says is that you are creating content on TikTok, is what I understand. Yes?
Almost every single day. So I kind of came into social media around 2005, 2006. I started my
Hmm.
business in 2005. And then I started, Instagram and Facebook. And TikTok, kind of started coming into my periphery, and then the pandemic hit. And I started making TikToks, and I started showing my books. And because people were locked in,
Hmm.
my book Fix That Shit, which is my book for couples on how to have a zero fight relationship,
Hmm.
flew off the shelves. Um,
Because everyone was at home,
Everybody was at home,
stuck with their partners and having to really face things.
stuck with their problematic partners, stuck with their
Mm,
problematic egos, stuck with the problems that they weren't escaping, going to work and going out with friends.
right, right. So it was just you had been, so I'm going to pause just a moment here because I've already heard some piece verbs in the mix. So going back, rewinding a moment, Krista, you talked about your inner need to make art. So
Mhm.
you're an artist, you're a photographer, and to put your photographs with music. So TikTok seems like a very natural platform for you as an artist, as a photographer, and someone who loves music and putting the two of them together. So there's one piece verb right there. And then I'm hearing that you also, I mean, unless the algorithm just magically put Chantal in front of you, you probably saw it. You probably typed in some keywords that led you to her. Did you? Do you remember even that part of it?
Remember, I was doing live streams also, and then I started seeing more variety in the live streams the algorithm was showing me. And in my live stream, it's quite different from Chantel's, but mine, I'm seeking out middle ground and trying to find areas where people can find common ground and come together. And that's not what I'm not saying that's not what Chantel's message is either, but it's a just different topic.
But
But
it pulled it in.
what's that?
It pulled it in.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I don't remember exactly how she first showed up, but everything she said made a lot of sense to me right away. And the things that didn't, I just listened a little longer, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, yeah, okay. It's logic. She teaches logic, so there's something peaceful about logic in a way.
There. Oh, absolutely, something peaceful about logic. So Chantal, if you were on TikTok right around the time of the pandemic, but you had already written a book to help couples resolve their conflicts, what I'm hearing is, well, one of them is right timing, practicing right timing. You saw this opportunity and you jumped, you got into the mix on TikTok. And then
Well,
you
I
you
think it was a little bit of that magic in a way, because I do believe in magic, and I do believe that the universe brings you what you need when you need it, and it lays it out in front of you, and it's up to you to step into the path.
mm,
And so I, was on social media using Instagram, using Facebook, but I'm not a strong social media user. So it wasn't getting me much traction. And YouTube as well. And so I've been, like you kind of go through life and you hear words start coming in more and more often. And that's when something starts to become a phenomenon. So
hmm
I started hearing the word TikTok over and over again. So I finally downloaded the app and I was scrolling through it for a while. And then one day I made a video that took hold, and it was literally me on my, like, crouched on my bathroom floor. And I was crouched, and here's my camera, here's me crouching on the floor, right? And I'm
Yeah,
just doing this on my bathroom floor. I'm like, do you know why guys come back and get you after you've gotten over them after a breakup? And it's like less than 2 minutes long. And it was my first viral video. And I just
yeah,
kind of took it from there because I saw that this platform was giving me traction in a way that no other platform was giving me.
right. Right. I think so. You showed up in a way that was relatable because everyone can relate to their bathroom floor and crouching on it, and then you struck a chord that was apparently very very common, and it was a thread that opened a door for people to find you and to dig in a little bit more. I'd like to use perhaps a word that I'd like to talk about with you, both of you, a lot more today, which is delve.
Yeah,
So TikTok is not necessarily a place to delve, am I right? Because it's short, little clips one after another.
it's
And
a great
yet,
delve.
is it
It,
really?
it
Tell me
is an
more.
amazing place to delve because in 2 minutes from an intelligent communicator, I can learn a lot about a
Mm,
big subject. And so, because you have all these extremely intelligent, well spoken, educated people, and
mm,
educated some in the sense of formal education, educated some in the sense of very logical, putting things together education. And I love how, because I'm I'm voracious when it comes to taking in information, and I have been since the age of 4. I had a grade 11 vocabulary in grade 7 because I consume information like oxygen. I want it, I need it. And for a person like me, TikTok is a wonderful source because so many different people from all these places in the world giving you
mm.
so much in a little amount of time.
Concentrated,
Mhm.
concentrated.
And
So you're both, please go ahead, Krista.
and uncensored.
Uncensored,
I want to point that out because
right?
you're getting real time on the ground information from real people all over the world without it going through some corporate media sponsorship, censorship. I think that's
Yeah.
just an important thing to note.
It's not on the news, but it's on TikTok.
Hmm.
Wow. So I'm just taking that in. I'm pausing and taking that in. I haven't really been on TikTok. My introduction to TikTok was being a guest on Krista's live stream a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it wants to know who you are. It
Mm,
watches your features as you're scrolling. It pays
mm,
attention to what you're staying on, and it pays
mm,
attention to what you stay with all the way through.
mm.
And so it starts to learn because it is a learning algorithm and it is facial recognition looking at your emotions. And
Wow.
it knows I want everything. So it's feeding me birds and horses and cats and dogs and news.
Mm,
And science and string theory and meditation and artificial intelligence and politics. I get it all because it knows I want it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
even
Well,
history, a lot of history that we weren't necessarily taught in schools. And you hear
Yeah.
these things that sound crazy, and then you look it up and do the research, and whoa, lo and behold, this was true all along, and we weren't taught this in school.
Mhm.
wow. Thank you. Well, that's a great introduction for me. So this video is going to first be on YouTube, but there will also be little clips that will go to TikTok. So maybe that was one of them.
Yeah.
So I'd like to bring this back to how the two of you met. So Krista, I understand that you are engaging with Chantal on TikTok, and is that actually how you started talking to each other? Did it go back to that online platform, or was it fast forwarding to when you got on a train and you went out to the seminar, to the
Yeah.
conference, the workshop? Yeah.
Well, I would be in the live streams pretty much every day, and I think Chantel started to recognize that. And at one point, she made me a moderator because I think she recognized that I was paying attention to the things she was saying, and I could help answer questions. And one of the things we do is mute people and delete people, and that's one of the things she teaches is that we can hold our space. We as women can hold
Mm-hmm.
space, and we don't have to allow
Mm,
toxicity into our environment. So by letting us do that, she's showing by example, but also letting us feel what it feels like to be empowered enough to just block and delete people. So from there, she held an event last November where we did a meditation, and she did some one-on-one coaching with me and a small group of women, and we got together and had a really nice time. And we also went to Script Up, which was the international pole dancing competition, and
oh,
Chantal
fun.
was the judge there. So it was a really mixed bag of events, from meditating to watching the pole dancers, and got to enjoy the hyperbaric chamber. And so yeah, it was a great time. And I think during that time when I met her in my coaching session, I was reading the book you just read.
Yeah,
And
the
so,
Light That Shit Up book.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And so custom made. And
Custom made.
so she had talked to me about developing my live streams and doing more of what I want to do. And I had sort of had the idea of doing a documentary with several different women who view as leaders in their communities. And then just getting to know her more, I realized there's enough content here to just make a whole film about Chantal, because I think her message and her methodology is actually so empowering and so important, and it really, really has the potential to change the future for whoever is willing to hear it and listen to it and learn from it.
Mm.
And even those that don't will be affected by those of us that do. So so then
So
we
it's that I'm just remembering a book from the 80s that was The 100th Monkey, and the idea that after 100 monkeys saw each other washing, I think it was washing their fruit in the river. I can't even remember exactly what the monkeys were doing. Then the rest of the monkeys were doing it. So it's this idea that enough of us heal, enough of us transform, then we create an energetic field for that to happen in mass, is what I believe I'm hearing from you.
yeah, like a
So
ripple.
what you're describing is monkey see, monkey do. But there's even a further evidence that monkey do, monkey do. So
Hmm.
there was a phenomenon where on an island, something, I don't remember all the details, but I'm just kind of bringing forth the vagueness of it. So there was a monkey troop on this side and a monkey troop on the other side. They had zero contact with each other, but
Hmm.
this monkey started washing their stuff
I
in the
think we're
water.
talking about the same thing, right?
This monkey troop that never met that monkey troop
Hmm.
started washing their stuff in the water. So,
Right.
so what I teach is monkey see, monkey do, because I teach you to elevate yourself, right? The
Mhm.
evolution revolution. When I evolve myself through meditation, self-reflection, accountability, responsibility, choosing my
Mhm.
thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. I can't choose my emotions, but I can choose my behaviors, right? So I evolve myself. I become a more evolved human being. I'm not vomiting, I'm responsible. I choose a partner who takes responsibility for themselves. So I evolve myself, I evolve my selection. Now the
Mhm.
two of us are in a home, we make a baby. What is the baby witnessing? An evolved relationship. Monkey see, monkey do means I won't settle for less. I won't
Mhm.
settle for abuse. I was never abused. I won't settle for dysfunction. I didn't witness it. It wasn't my familiar. I seek
Mhm.
what's familiar, even if it's wrong for me. So if my familiar is functional, I seek functional. If my familiar is dysfunctional, got to change a pattern or I'll keep being dysfunctional. So
Mhm.
monkey see,
Mhm.
monkey do is my 11 books. But my ultimate purpose is the collective consciousness. We are doing this over here. Now they're going to start doing it over there.
Mhm. Thank you. I'm going to hit the pause button for a moment because I want to go back to something you said, Krista, which is, I think, still what we're talking about, Chantal, and that is a piece verb of finding and holding healthy boundaries. Finding and holding healthy boundaries. And so, just going back to Krista, you were moderating for Chantal on TikTok, and Chantal, you were giving Krista, as a moderator, permission to block and delete toxic input, toxic participation. And so, that's a holding of a healthy boundary, a finding and a holding of a healthy boundary. And now I'm hearing that there is a self-discipline involved in that process of going inward and being still to continually reinforce the healthy sense of self. And then from that point, select healthy relationships and thereby, one family at a time, rebuild our society and our connective tissue as human beings from a place of wholeness, from a place of respect, and from a place of healing. So that finding and holding healthy boundaries is a really important part of that. And Chantal, you were listing being accountable, being responsible. So the idea of accountability, holding someone else accountable, but also starting with holding yourself accountable, and that includes clearing the clutter out of your mind and coming back with the self-discipline to be still and be to meditate is to be still and to journal and to self-reflect. Reflect is a piece verb that should be in my list and it's not there, but it's really inherent in all of this is that reflection process. So the journaling that you're talking about is a part of that self-reflection. Sorry, as you can tell, I'm not on TikTok, so I have to slow you down because
Okay.
my brain doesn't think in in 30 to 90 second segments. Um, but then you were talking about you came together in real life, right? Was it a workshop, Chantal? What did you call that event?
So it was a retreat day.
A retreat.
Yeah. And then, so on the Sunday, we spent the day together. On the Saturday, the day before, my friend she does a yearly pole dance competition. This was her second yearly competition. And I was one of the guest judges. And so they got entry into that as well.
So with pole dancing, there was a time in my life when I was taking circus classes, and there was a fairly strong crossover between people that were doing aerial in circus to pole dancing. You need the same muscles. There's a lot of being upside down, and and so I that's my entry point into going to some shows, pole dancing shows, but. I don't think people realize how strong you have to be a pole dancer, besides being sexy, sensual, like how much physical strength. You want to
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about that?
So I'm not a pole dancer because my shtick was sensuality. And I call them aerial artists because that's
Hmm.
what a pole dancer is. She is an aerial artist. The stuff that they do
Absolutely.
is absolutely incredible. So that was never my thing. My thing was more about the sensuality. I like, the eye contact and the come hither kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
I'm slow and sexy on the stage. I'm not a gymnast, and some of these women are incredible gymnasts on these.
Absolutely. but you connect with the sensuality part of it. That's where they pull you in as a judge.
Yes, yeah. I
Yeah.
was a stripper for 20 years. So my friend Sachi, she worked with me. I became her life coach.
20 years.
Yeah. 52.
Congratulations. Wow, would never have guessed. Congratulations on the longevity in that line of work.
She was
Krista.
unusual in that she stripped sober for 20 years, which is not something
Yeah.
you find that often. So she has a really interesting perspective into men and guys, and listening to these people in clubs talking to her and telling her anything and everything. So she got it all uncensored. And she was listening and paying attention. So
I wanted to ask you about that. I think that the skill set and the inner courage and strong personal boundaries that come with that profession, and then how that translates for you into holding space. Because to me, when you're talking about the sensuality and the eye contact, you are holding someone's attention, which is another way of saying you're holding space with them and for them. You
Yeah.
are holding their attention, and you are very engaged in understanding how to do that. And so, from a sensual perspective, which I think you're probably in a small percentage of women in our culture that has allowed yourself to actually tap into your own sensuality in a really true embodied way. There's so many rules that we have on us, so many uh, judgments that we have on sexuality that you probably are in a smaller percentage of women who have allowed themselves to do that, holding space for yourself in your own sensuality and at the same time being on display. Can
Mhm.
you tell us about that experience?
I love how you use the word allow because I worked as a stripper for 20 years from the age of 21 to 41. When I was in my early 30s, my second husband and I started a relationship, and his 8 and 9 year old son was in hockey at the time, and he was in hockey till he was 17. So I was with the hockey moms for
Right.
a long time. So let's compare my stripper friends to the hockey mom group,
I would love to compare those
right?
two.
So the hockey
Right.
mom group, so many of them wanted to be strippers.
Yeah.
Like we're at a house party and there's a pillar in the kitchen, and the hockey moms are trying to swing around the pillar in the kitchen because
Yeah.
they wish they had become strippers, but they didn't allow themselves to do that. They
Hmm.
didn't allow themselves to be so comfortable with their bodies and nudity and sexuality and love of dance to combine it and make it a job and make money off of it. So we do have a culture that is very repressed, and it holds women especially down because what is the one industry where women make more money than men?
Mm.
In the sex work industry.
Wow.
And so in the one industry where women do make more money, they're shamed from it.
Right.
So I knew I was going to be a stripper when I was 6 years old. I told my mom I was going to be a stripper when I was 6 years old. And when I was 21, I had the courage to start, and I did.
Wow. Wow. And so you're holding space for yourself. So you've at 6, you already know that you are an embodied female, and this is a part of how you're expressing yourself. You
At
already know this at 6.
I was watching TV. I was flipping through the channels, and I came across, so I was born in 72, so this would have been around 78.
Yeah,
So
me
I
too.
a black and white movie with a burlesque dancer named Sally Rand. Now, I didn't know she was burlesque. I didn't know her name was Sally Rand. I didn't even know the word burlesque. But I saw a woman enter the scene, and she was wearing high heels and a bikini. She was using this big feather fan and
Yeah.
dancing behind it.
Yeah.
Sensuality, sexuality, comfort in her own body. And I went,
Hmm.
that's me. Oh, and added to dance. That's me. You take that equation, and that's me. And the moment my mom came home, I'm like, Mom, I know what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be a stripper because sensuality, sexuality, comfort with yourself, dance, that's me.
And your mom's not being interviewed on this channel, so I'm not going to ask you what she did or said,
I'll
but
tell you. I'll tell you what she did then. I'll tell you what she does now.
thank
Then
you.
she was like, oh, that's so funny. That's so cute. Whatever.
Mhm.
Now she tells parents, you better pay attention to what your kids are saying. Because if they're saying they want to do something you don't want, don't ignore it. Convince them to do something else.
Uh,
And to that, I say, Mom, you never could have convinced me to do something else.
right, because you were being you
I
and
was
you were
being,
holding a door open. And so here you are, 20 years holding space for yourself, expressing yourself, and then also by that eye contact, by eyes on you, by your dance, by the attention on you, you're holding space for your, I'm assuming mostly male audience,
for my art.
for your
Because
art.
I I'm not holding space for them to do it the way they want it. I'm holding space for my art. And if
Hmm.
you come into what I do and appreciate it, then you become a part of it.
Hmm.
But if
Hmm.
you're not appreciating my art the way I exercise it,
Hmm.
you're locked out.
So I'm assuming you were not, like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that you were not in control over those that were let in the door of those clubs.
No, but I control who saw what. And so sometimes when
Um,
I was on stage, right? Because when I go on stage, I'm looking for the people who see the artistry in what I do because I know
hmm.
what I'm doing is artistic. So
Hmm.
I'm looking for the people that are catching on. They're not just looking for the vajayjay. They're
Right.
looking for the artistry in the movement, and I see the people who find it.
And
And
so
me
so you're like TikTok, you're watching the faces.
let me tell you, my love, there's a point with those people when I'll be on stage, and you know Pervert's Row, it's right about here, right?
Okay.
I'll be on stage and there'll be a guy sitting in Pervert's Row, and I'm in front of him and I'm leaning back, buck naked, and I got my legs open, and they
Wow.
got eyes here. They're locked in here because this entire time I've locked them in to the
Hmm.
point where I can be right in front of their faces and opening my legs, and they're here.
So this is a transformative experience for you and for them.
It's it's very empowering because I know what I want from this, which is the energy. I
Hmm.
come into this stage and I'm bringing an energy and I'm seeing who's picking up on the vibration. And the
Hmm.
people who get in on the vibration elevate the vibration.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
comes to me and I get it. And I go,
Yeah.
ooh, that was a high. And
Yeah.
my vibration goes higher and it hits those people back again and it takes them higher. And what
Yeah.
happens in this exchange, and I feel it, is this elevation in each of us. We're doing this, we're riding on each
Hmm.
other to the point where at
Hmm.
the end, I'm vibrating so high, I'm literally shaking from it. I don't
Wow.
need drugs. I don't need alcohol, but I'll take your energy.
Ah, and so you're really bringing the divine feminine, the goddess energy into this. You're reclaiming sexuality for all of us
And
by this.
And those ones, not the ones that are just looking for jai jai, not the
Sure.
ones that objectify without seeing personality or artistry, but the
Yeah.
ones that I tap into, they get something from this. They
Yeah.
came from an experience and they got it.
I'm just gonna take a moment, take a moment to let that settle. And for those that are listening to let that settle. I want to move us into the here and now where you are now bringing your artistry to your business and to your books and to your TikTok. So let's move from the erotic beauty of the sensual art that you made for 20 years on stage in
Mhm.
live performances into the what did you learn from that about relationships that then like, what was your entry point into I'm starting a business and I'm helping people and I'm helping them in their relationships. Am I right that that was the first point of help that you came to offer? Relationship coaching, relationship help?
On the floor in the strip club, which is why it was such an easy transition. Because in the dressing room, what were the girls talking about? their boyfriends and problems. On
Hmm.
the floor, do you think every single person I danced for was single? I
Oh,
had
right.
right? I had married people who were coming. So I was fixing marriages. I was helping girls leave bad relationships. And so after 20 years of stripping at 41, when I said to myself, it's kind of time to age out, what am I going to do next? So the next question I asked myself is, what am I already doing that I love? Because I'm so hedonistic, why would I suffer?
Hmm.
The answer was give advice. And so then I asked myself, in what format, in what way? And it took me a little bit of time to piece it together, but ultimately the answer was as a life coach, niching in dating and relationships.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And so now let's take that and fast forward to today
Mhm.
and to this project that you and Krista are working on together. And Krista, I also want to bring in that this is the second film that you've done. So there was The Great Highway, the film about the surfing culture in San Francisco.
Great highway. Yep.
And so I'd like to understand from both of your perspectives as artists and as creators what this collaboration means together, the two of you making this film. And if we could just jump over to Krista for a moment. Krista, the other film that I have watched that you have already made is is a beautiful tribute to the personalities, the people that created the surfing culture and that pioneered in the very cold, choppy waters of Northern California, or we call it Northern, it's really more central here in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
And and so you went from a degree in photography, and so you've got that theater background and also as a stagehand and a surfer. Can you tell us for a few minutes how that project was and how you came to do that project? Because that I think feeds into what you are doing together here too.
Yeah, that project was also a labor of love, and I had found surfing, which I actually used to replace antidepressants. I had been
Oh,
suffering
okay.
from depression much of my life, and after being on antidepressants and deciding I didn't like it and I didn't want to support the pharmaceutical industry, I decided if I start surfing every day, it's going to do for my brain what these drugs are doing, but in a natural, healthy way.
That's a piece verb, spend time with water. So
Absolutely.
so spending time with water.
So it became not only my medication, but my church, my spirituality. Being in the ocean has a way of really showing you how insignificant you can be. That
Mm.
it's huge, and here this tiny person just, floating around at will to its currents, and it moves you where where it wants to put you. So there's sort of an awakening that comes with that.
And the meditation that comes with that, right? Like a
Meditation,
very
yeah.
strong being in the present moment, right?
Absolutely. And it was also a huge confidence builder because it's terrifying, to jump into
Right.
the rough, crazy ocean. It's freezing cold. It can be very dangerous. But doing that and learning about it and surviving it, and not only surviving it, but loving it, enjoying it, having fun, and then excelling in it, I began competing in it, and it became my world for quite a long time. But it really did replace the pharmaceuticals, the antidepressants. I didn't need those anymore, and now I'm very in tune with the fact that your brain is part of your body, and if your body isn't healthy, how can your brain be healthy? So there's this comprehensive group of things that have to be taking place. Exercise, physical exercise, and some sort of spirituality, it all comes together to make you a well-rounded, more healthy person. So,
So you envisioned at that before you started surfing, you envisioned that you could do this and that it would help you. There was a seeing it in your mind's eye first and then making a decision and acting on the decision. So I'm just pulling out the piece verbs I'm
yeah,
hearing. I'm hearing
yeah,
you envisioned, I'm hearing you acted, you tried.
yeah. I noticed I started surfing and I enjoyed it, but I just did it here and there. But I noticed that on the days that I surfed, yeah, I felt great for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week. Like if I surfed in the morning, nothing could bother me for the rest of the day. Like I was good. I was grounded. Nothing could ruffle my feathers.
You
And
are
that's
grounded by the water.
Yeah, yeah. And I recognize that in Chantal as well,
Yeah,
because I'd see all
yeah,
these guys coming into the live stream saying the most hideous, horrible things, and she's unaffected. She's like, yeah, I just block that, delete that, and get rid of that. I don't allow that in my space, taking full responsibility
yeah.
for her surroundings, her environment, which is pretty much the same thing that I was doing by surfing every day and putting myself in that place where I needed to be. So,
It's
yeah,
it's a universal life force energy that both of you are engaging in different settings, and yet that's what it is, isn't it? When you're in the ocean, that is you're immediately physically surrounded with this incredible life force. And Chantal, the way you're describing performance is it feels very much like that,
well,
including
and
that.
tie it back to Chantel again. She
Yeah,
has an event coming up, which is going to be at Niagara Falls, and it's for that reason because it's
the
water.
water.
There's
Yeah,
power in the water, and Chantel, if you want to speak to that, please. But that's a very common theme between us.
the water, being
Yeah.
with the water.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
you,
I very much believe in the energy of water. I love being near water. I'm not a water baby by any means whatsoever,
Mhm.
but I have an intense draw to be around whales. I have an intense draw to be near water, and every time I host a retreat, there is a water element to it.
Mhm.
Because I really feel like water moves and it shifts. And I am hosting this particular celebration the most powerful water source I could find.
Mm, right, right. So we have Krista making this film about surfing. So Krista, it was a piecing together of the history of the surf culture in Ocean Beach, and there was quite a few interviews of people. So I see that as being very similar to this project that you're working on with Chantal. So rather than just filming Chantal, you're also interviewing people that are in Chantal's circle. Am I right about that?
Yes, people that are inner circle, but also people that have come from different backgrounds that are affected in different ways by what she teaches. And uh, well, to be fair, the surf documentary was a project I did with someone else, so it wasn't
Hmm.
just me. But since
Hmm.
that was completed, I was looking for the next project that really inspired me to do it on my own. I mean, I have a crew, but this is like
Right.
my project. This is
You're
what
the director. Yeah.
and Chantel's story and what she's teaching like really gripped me enough to make me so motivated to get this out there because and I don't even know it's interesting because I don't have kids and I probably one of those people that shouldn't care so much about the future generations because I didn't make kids, but for some reason it means a lot to me to see the change in the world what her teaching I think will bring about. Even though I don't have kids of my own, I just there's so many women, including myself, that go into Chantel's live streams and you hear them say, I wish I had known this when I was younger. I wish I had
Right.
known this as a teenager. And
Right.
keeps coming up. So
And
there's
so here we are we're all in our early 50s, the three of us.
Yeah.
And here we are having this awareness that we need to be out there in the ears and in front of the eyes of people that need support and help in finding their center.
But that is what the matriarchy is, right? Our fertility cycle shuts down. Our sex drive shuts
That's right.
down. Our desire to mate and partner shuts down. So where does that energy go? To education.
So in the triple goddess, I want to bring in the triple goddess, Chantal, because you invoked 6-year-old you.
Mhm.
So we've got the maiden, right? The maiden tapped into her own vitality and life purpose. And then we see, I guess we go into the mother, right? So in your reproductive years, you were full on embracing the sensuality and sexuality. And then now entering into the crone years, how are you teaching? How are you supporting others to come up?
Yeah.
So I want to bring in the triple goddess. I think that's an important piece to
Mhm.
hold.
I think we can be the triple goddess when we practice self-awareness.
So, right, right. So I'm gonna just take a quick look at this piece list. So um So the two of you are coming together to create this film. The film is the Revolution Evolution.
Evolution.
So evolution, revolution, did I yeah, I mixed the order of the two words. Evolution,
Chantal is
revolution.
writing a book by the same
Yeah.
time. So they'll
Yeah.
share branding. And it may have been done before in history, but I can't think of a time where a documentary and a book partnered as a project to raise awareness and to teach. So that's what we're doing in my view. We're just
Raising awareness and
people getting our arms wide and bringing in as many people as we possibly can. So
a- and it seems to me that the central focus of this project is the pairing of the two piece verbs, one of them being alone and the other one being together. Because what I'm hearing from the what you're talking about, both of you, is this central importance to being still in a one with yourself, to
Yeah.
listen to, hear, acknowledge, and dedicate yourself to you, to who you are. And then in that process, you bring forward what the world needs from you. And
Mhm.
so then it goes back to being together. You bring forward what the world needs from you. And so here, Krista, you are a filmmaker, and Chantal, you are the object of the film being made. And the two of you, you need each other for this exercise, for this project. You can't
Mhm.
do it all by yourself, and none of us can do it by
Right.
ourselves.
Even on my live streams, I say to the people that are watching, I say, I am nobody without you.
Right. And yet you have to be you, and you have to do that without them. It's this really paradoxical thing.
Yeah. But when you say, I love it how you kind of piece that together, the alone and then the together part, because something that I say is my number one relationship rules. It's not fair to ask for anything you're not willing to do first.
Mm,
So whatever we're asking to have happen when we're together, we need to be able to give it to ourselves when we are alone. If I'm
mm.
asking for understanding, I need to look at myself and understand myself. If I'm asking for happiness to be provided, I need to look at myself and provide the happiness. If I'm asking for peace to be provided, I need to look at myself and provide peace.
And so there's a step in there which is, okay, if I need to provide peace, I need to provide happiness, I need to provide self-love, all of that, then there's this, the next question is, well, what is it? Do I even know? There's a vacuum that we face
Yeah.
that I see in your book, the one that I've read, that there's journal prompts at the end of every chapter. And
But what we're doing is we're turning it backwards. We're saying, I'm not happy. How can I get somebody to make me happy?
right.
Instead of, I'm not happy. How can I make myself happy so I can explain to someone else how my happiness happens so they can understand and not interfere?
Understand and not interfere. And so you are actually correcting and uprighting and grounding the false paradigm of the princess getting rescued by the prince.
Yes, I am. I am counterculture with what I teach, which is why people are paying attention because I'm counterculture, yet I make so much more sense.
Because you are true and correct. And so that is another piece for be true.
Which shows how our culture is lying to us.
And yet we understand and we resonate with truth, don't we? If we hear it, we feel it, which is really where your success is coming from. People are hearing and feeling and recognizing.
Yeah.
I would love to, if I may, bring something up that Chantal speaks about a lot, which is the bonobos and the chimpanzees. And I would love to, Chantal, if you could
Tell us
say your
more.
thing because it's so good.
So I'm a researcher. I am a massive nerd and I need to understand. I always have to ask why and come to an understanding. And when I look at humanity and how we function, I ask myself, why are we functioning this way? And the reason is because we're functioning under a patriarchy. But what I've come to understand is that there are two chimps, there are two primates that are within a 5% difference of genetic code to human beings, meaning there's less than a 5% difference between us genetically. And there are two. There's the chimpanzees and the bonobos. And what is interesting about this is chimpanzees are patriarchal and bonobos are matriarchal.
Mm,
So when we study those two cultures, we see how we could be. When we look at chimpanzees that are patriarchal, the dominant ones are the ones that mate. There is massive violence within the troop, massive violence outside of the troop. They fight
mm,
amongst themselves and tear each other apart. They fight with other troops and tear them apart. And this is patriarchy. This is
mm,
male dominated. We look at bonobos and it is female dominated, matriarchy. Sexuality is a greeting. It's so casual. I'll
mm.
say hi to you by diddling you and giving you an orgasm. And that's how casual it is. That's a greeting. That's a hello.
Wow.
So, because sexuality is so free, think about this. You just got diddled 5 minutes ago. Are you stressed out right now? No.
No.
You had an orgasm. You're good. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. I got to have a nap. There's no violence. And so, in the matriarchal model, which has unconstrained sexuality, it's all peace and love.
Mm,
So, I
mm.
like to look at our two cultures and go, what do we actually want to be? Do we want to be sexually repressed and violent, or do we want to be open and accepting and loving?
So there's a book called Pussy, a Reclamation. Have the two of you read this book?
I haven't.
No,
In the
but
show
so-
notes, I'm going to have to remind myself the wonderful author, Regina Thomas Hauer. And she makes the connection to the goddess at a very young age as well. And to her, the goddess is basically a beam of sunshine, is I think the best way to describe that warm, inclusive, beautiful sunny day feeling. And to connect to our sensuality, to our orgasm, to allowing ourselves that humanity by women allowing women to be women
Mm,
ourselves, that beauty and that well-being can ripple out to everybody.
yeah,
Yeah. There's so much overlap of your work with Regina's work.
good. Fundamental knowledge strikes again.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, Chantal, you had some notes before coming into this conversation. Did you want to take a look at them, and were there piece verbs you wanted to highlight?
I did. So I can go through them really super quickly. So what I added to that was silence because
Mm,
it is communication technique that I've used for the past 9 years, which has led to my husband and I having a much more peaceful relationship because in the silence I do my thinking. And in
mm,
thinking, I ask myself, do I really need to say that?
mm,
So much peace is gained because I'm not saying things that I shouldn't be saying once I reflect on them. In attachment to that, I added conversation flow chart slash right timing. Right timing is something you wrote in your
mm-hmm,
verse. A
mm-hmm.
conversation flow chart is assessing what you're going to say before you say it and deciding if you should or not even, because more often than not in the silence, I found that actually I didn't need to say that. I could just fix it myself and everything would be fine
So there's a pause point. There's a pause point. You're pressing the pause in the relationship conversation
in me
in yourself,
because he doesn't know I was about to say something.
right?
So the pause happens inside of me. I'm about to say something, but let me do a conversation flow chart. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it a problem? Have I solved it yet? So I do all this
Mm,
internal work, meaning I'm
mm-hmm.
not vomiting into my relationship. When I do talk to my partner, it is much more constructive and functional.
You're bringing the logic in.
100%. And I listen, like if I solve a problem on my own, I might say to him, "Hey, baby, I had a moment of insecurity," but then I reminded myself of who I picked. I remind myself of how you proved to me you love me and are devoted to me. And then I did some meditation to just calm my mind and anxieties because obviously my amygdala is overactive right now, and I feel so much better. And that's a conversation of me having a problem, fixing the problem before talking to him about the problem. Meaning the conversation was me talking about my solutions instead of me going to him going, I feel insecure, fix me.
Right. Right. And so what you're talking about, Krista might accomplish on her surfboard. This pause, this centering and this connection to self. And so you're being very proactive in this description of understanding that a relationship, a marriage, a cohabitation is a job that
It's
we
responsibility.
it's a responsibility. I don't mean a job like a burden. I mean a job like it's an active engagement. We
Mhm.
show up to it, we contribute to it, and if we bring our focus to it and we bring our logic to it, that we contribute at a higher, more 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 generous and positive and helpful way.
Yes.
Something
Yeah.
Chantal says is it's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Um, I put responsibility in there,
Hmm.
as we need to take responsibility for our own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. I have surrender in there because we need to release the outcome and do the right thing because it's the right thing to do and just
Mm,
the outcome.
mm.
Acknowledgement. I get a lot of peace from acknowledging the good that my husband does instead of trying to find things he doesn't do and then just circling around that like a turd in a toilet bowl.
So being grateful. Well, sorry, you jumped right into turd in the toilet bowl. Let's talk about, I don't know, flowers and rainbows and the seeing the beauty in him and
Yes.
pausing and recognizing and expressing gratitude for the beauty that he brings.
Yeah, because like when if we talk about love languages, I'm a words of affirmation and physical affection person. My husband is
Mm.
physical affection and acts of service. I can
Right.
focus on the lack of words of affirmation and ignore the affection and acts of service, but if I do that, I'll get less affection and acts of service.
Right, because we all are strengthened when we are seen and appreciated.
For our strength. Like I appreciate what my husband brings. We are puzzle pieces. His weaknesses are my strengths. My weaknesses are his strengths. And so when you pick a good partnership like that, you're not nitpicking or trying to change somebody. You are seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, and accepting it all. Why would I nitpick on what he's not doing while surely accepting all the good stuff he is? I'm not balancing.
Right. So balance, there's a peace verb right there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manifestation, right? We are creating what we want, accepting, right? The good, the bad, the ugly again creates a lot of peace. I'm not trying to change him. I accept him, even the stuff I don't agree. If I didn't agree with him, if I need to change him, I'm with the wrong person. So I'm
Mm,
creating my own chaos by committing to somebody I'm attempting to change to try to
mm,
get it right for me. So
mm.
I create my peace by having acceptance in my relationship, even when I disagree. But again, the disagreements have to be disagreements you accept. Like
Disagreements you
if
accept. If you
right,
can't accept it, then that might be about a boundary that you have
it's not about
overstepped in yourself.
it's a mismatch.
I guess
So
that was what I was trying to say. If you've paired yourself with somebody that's not the right partner for you, you have overstepped your own boundary. You have,
yes.
yeah.
And maybe you just didn't do enough due diligence within yourself to understand what you wanted before picking a partner, which is how you ended up with somebody that you're finding you don't accept.
And so it's about that 100% work that you do, that work you do, that self-listening, that self-reflection, that self-knowing before you even try to engage in partnership.
And that's what No More Assholes is all about as well. Like the first three sections out of seven, you're not even looking for somebody yet. It's all about the self.
You have very catchy titles, very relatable titles.
Thank you. I'm custom made to be able to teach in a way that is very easy for people to pick up and then turn around and teach to other people.
Hmm. I got that from the book of yours that I read. Absolutely.
Yay. Can I ask you what was your favorite part about that book?
Let's see. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was just a very personal, like, oh yeah, she's absolutely right about the quieting of the mind and about understanding where you're leaking your energy in your own thoughts and
Yeah.
how absolutely critical that is for all of us. And especially in the modern era of social media where we can leak our energy all over the place if we're not actually actively driving our own engagement.
Mhm. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm glad I could teach you something.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's something else that reminds me of that Chantal says, which is, don't let other people's dysfunction be your distraction. We women are taught
Mm,
to caretake people and to, pick projects and fix people and cater to not the best side of them. And we don't need to do that. So that's something I found very helpful from her, because she also says, you can't ask for anything in a relationship you don't bring yourself. So it's really
mhm.
about being the right person for a relationship as much as it is finding the right person.
So
And
you're elevating the game for everybody with
taking
that personal responsibility.
responsibility for your own
Yeah.
actions and for yourself as you do so, whilst also setting boundaries. So, it's it's a lot.
It's really exciting. So if I could bring it back to the two of you to this project that you're working on together, and what kind of trajectory do you see? Like I know with a creative project you can't say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be finished at 4 p.m. on April 15th." Like you don't necessarily know exactly. But how far along are you in your creation process?
Actually, with this one, as opposed to the other, my previous film, we do have a really solid timeline, and we have a very planned out set of actions that are going to take place. We're trying to complete this film this year. 2025 is the year. That's the goal. We did a shoot. I went to Canada in January, and we did over 10 interviews and also spent lots and probably dozens of hours with Chantal. We had one of my one of our most fun shooting days ever, where we got Chantal back in the club where she was a
Oh
dancer.
wow.
And we got her up on the stage and she danced and it was amazing. And we did all kinds of fun camera stuff and we used a bunch of different cameras, and it was all around a hugely successful day. And the whole trip was very successful. We got some really important voices included in the film. So I'll be continuing with interviewing lots of other people. Chantal and I have plans to probably go to Montreal together and revisit some of her places where she grew up and revisit, where she came from, kind
Yeah.
of, and
Yeah.
then we have another retreat that may or may not be part of it, but then we're gonna wrap it up at Niagara Falls. Well, not quite. We're gonna do the Niagara Falls event, which is a huge event. We're gonna be doing premiering a short version of the documentary film at that event, but we'll also be filming during that event.
Okay.
Was
So
going
it's
to be
like
the
a
last shoot, but now we've decided to include the next script up, which is the pole dancing competition in November. So we'll do that shoot as well, but then we'll be editing throughout the year.
as you
So
go.
by the
Okay.
end of those two events, October and November, we should be finished with the film by the end of the year. So,
So I'm hearing have fun.
oh yeah.
The peace verb, have fun, be in your joy, explore and create together. It sounds like an amazing adventure.
It
Mhm.
has been a lot of fun and it's going to
Yeah.
continue to be a lot of fun. And I don't know, I'm learning a lot, and it's hopefully, there seems to be a lot of energy behind it. The people that are in the live streams every day seem to be really excited about this and looking forward to it. And we have some really cool voices to include. I mean, we have a guy in the Ukraine, we have a woman who's on the forefront of AI and technology.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Mine, that's, well, Mari Newman. I'm gonna hopefully include her. She's a very powerful civil rights attorney who's just incredibly well-spoken feminist vocal, activist. Um,
Talk about being in your truth.
yeah, yeah. So this is a big project. There's a lot of topics here, bodily autonomy, women's rights, empowering women. This is huge, but um I think we're gonna really create something incredible. And looking at what we've shot so far, we're on that track for sure.
I want to thank you both for being brave.
Mm. Thank you. Thanks for
It's
sharing that.
rewarding. And something that I teach is you have to pick your behaviors despite your emotions. So
Hmm.
standing up for yourself, not letting people cross your boundaries, being firm, being assertive, defending yourself when people make false accusations. These are things that take courage. And a lot of us came from abusive parents. A lot of
Hmm.
us were punched down upon. Many of us had our faces slapped if we even showed an emotion, let alone speak our voice. And
Hmm.
so we had to undo that conditioning and learn to start rising up again. So it does take courage in the beginning because you have all the anxiety and stress cues, like the knotted stomach, the sweating palms, the dry mouth, the pounding heart. It feels physically difficult to do so because of all the symptoms. And I know it because I had to do the journey myself. But what I've learned and what I'm teaching people is that the first time you do it, it is so terrifying. So is the second. But the third time, it gets a bit easier because those first two times showed you how much better it was. It was not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
You didn't get the reaction you thought you were going to get. You
Hmm.
were punished the way you thought you were going to be punished. In fact, things got better, things got easier. So by the time
Hmm.
you get to the third time, it's still stressful, but a little bit easier. And as time goes on, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you see how standing up for yourself gave you the better outcome, the easier it becomes because now you're seeking that better outcome. Just give me the chance to stand up for myself. I will take it full throttle.
So you're being brave, you're trying, and you're persisting. Those three
In
piece verbs together.
in the beginning, but practice makes perfect and courage. Like it takes fear to have courage. It
Hmm.
comes to a point where you're operating from confidence instead of courage.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So
that
you're
even
so
in
you,
and of itself is very empowering, right? It's like what I was saying about jumping in the ocean and being terrified, but realizing like I can do this, I
yeah.
can do this. And that helps you grow a lot as
Purposely putting yourself in a environment where you're stretching yourself, where you are taking on a fear, it push it you get to embody yourself then, right? Rather than staying small, you get to actually fill yourself into yourself.
Yes. And but also what you see is the fear mongering was nothing. Nothing. All of those people that said, if you stand up, dare, if you dare own your space, you'll pay the price and it's not going to be good. And what we saw is we owned our space and it was amazing.
Yeah, and that's the message.
Mhm.
Is
Let's
there
do.
is there anything else that you would want to communicate in this space of pieces and action verb in relation to the work that you're doing together?
Krista.
I I just want to encourage people to keep growing, keep learning, keep knowing that you can improve your life, you can improve your situation. We get to choose our own reality. We're here one time, so we only get that shot. So, and that's one thing, I've been battling cancer for a year. I am cancer free now, but that experience awakened me to realize, hey, what am I waiting for to do the
Hmm.
things I want to do? I've got to do them now.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have cancer anymore, it really pointed out to me that, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And if there's something you want to do, a dream you have, do it. Do it. Because what if everything goes right? You
What
know,
if everything goes right?
what if it all works out? Then what can we do next? Look how much power we just gained, right?
And also, if it goes wrong, you still have more information at that point in time, right? You
And
have
that
more
improves the
life.
next thing that you do, right?
And it seems to me that there's a taste of being alive includes tasting all of it, right? The good and the bad. And if we think the only reason to do something is to succeed, then we lose the taste of the failures too. And something about failing is also a part of it. It's also a part of being alive. to say yes to the growth,
Well, failing forward is still moving forward.
failing forward. Right, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't stay stuck and frozen. Just keep moving, going forward.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.